Clock on the wall says it's 9 o'clock, so I'm gonna call to order. This is a special called workshop meeting of the Commissioners Court of Hood County. Today is Monday, October the 4th, 2021. It's 9 a.m. We're in the Emergency Operations Center located at 401 Deputy Miller Drive, Granbury, Texas. So today, the purpose of this workshop is to present information and an overview concerning the Treasury submission and compliance portal. May go into executive session. No action will be taken. Call Jay Webster to explain this, our emergency manager coordinator. Mr. Webster.
Morning, Judge.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Oh, give me just a second to get this pulled back up. Quick question, when I get to the portal, Judge, are you going to want the portals, there's information in the portal that shows our banking information and all of that, so are you going to want to share that live and publicly, or?
Maybe we'll go into executive session about sharing all the information with the banking information, okay?
You have to make a motion?
Do what?
You have to make a motion?
Well, you're not going to go into that first, are you? Or
No, I'll whip through the PowerPoint here just a little bit. All of this PowerPoint won't apply that y'all need to know because it gets kind of boring. And then I'll switch over to the portal to kind of, so we can have a conversation about the portal.
Okay, well, when you get to the portal about the banking information, I'm gonna make a motion at that time that we go into executive session so that you can stop the recording since it's talking about county funds, okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll try to do the best I can to explain a lot that's going on. We have 3 different instruction books that I have to follow, including several webinars that I've been participating in and questions that I've been emailing back and forth with the Treasury, and then asking some of the state members that have had conversation with the Treasury, because you can't actually talk to somebody at the Treasury. And so a lot of this is you email and you wait for a return. So what I'm going to cover real quick with y'all is basically the compliance and reporting guidance that we're required to follow for any counties or any cities that have less than 250,000 population or receiving more than $5 million total dollars. So like I said, some of this is y'all already very aware of. So I'm not going to bore you with the stuff that we've already covered several different times. These were webinars and stuff that I've been participating in to get some of the information that I'm sharing with you. The compliance and reporting guidance, like I said, is going to give you a kind of an overview. Talks about the general guidance and then our reporting guidance. And then, so the overview, I'm going to make this real quick. It basically talks about the American Rescue Plan, where it came from, how it was appropriated, what it's for, and when it was passed. And then it goes into the objectives for COVID response, replace lost revenue for eligible receipts, support immediate economic stabilization for households and businesses, and address systematic public health and economic challenges that have contributed to the unequal impact due to the pandemic. And then you had your interim final rule, which as of right now, that's what we're still operating under, with the exception of additional FAQs that they provide or additional emails that they provide me via the internet, in which I will share with y'all one that I received on Thursday. So compliance and reporting. So we have the interim final rules that says, here's what we're allowed to spend the money. So what we did is, when I get to the portal, you'll see, we applied for the funding. We received the funding, then we got the rules and guidance on how we're supposed to do that. Along with that came additional rules. Within that additional rules, we've all had that long conversation about what you can and can't do and how you have to do it. Then it gets into the reporting guidance, and that's kind of where I'm trying to get everybody to understand is, yes, you can do certain things as long as I can answer the questions inside the portal on the guidance and fulfill those questions that are there. If I can't, then we can't meet the objective at the end, which is passing the audit, because the compliance part of the portal is what they're gonna be auditing. Whatever we turn in, that's what they're auditing in the background. And if it doesn't have the right information and we can't provide it, then that piece of expenditure is now our responsibility. And so that's where there's several books up here. And one of them I'm gonna touch on because we just discovered it. We're not participating, but it makes it very difficult. So you have your statutory eligible uses, the Treasury's final rule, and then you have your uniform guidance and your requirements, and then your terms and conditions. Your statutory eligible uses and Treasury rulemaking. There's Part 1C1, Part 1C2, and then your reporting requirements, which we're going to spend a lot of the time today. What I want to touch on here is, remember, we have to have everything obligated by December 31st of 2024. Then that gives us 2 years to clean up the bills and make sure all the checks are cut and the purchases are finalized. So that's what that means. And then what we're going to kind of touch, what we're fixing to touch on is how often I'm required to do reports within this portal. Now, I'm not going to be the ones doing the reports. Becky's not here, she's sick, she called me this morning. This is a tag team effort. She is our auditor and our accounting person. I'm going to work with her on making sure she gets the documentation to do the numbers based on how or whatever y'all approve on the expenditures. This talks about the overall, just the general guidance. So here's the reporting requirements. So we did the interim report, which I'll cover in the portal here in a minute. And then we also have to show any funding that we do that's over $50,000, which some of our subawards that y'all approved in Commissioner Court are over $50,000, so we'll have to do quarterly reporting just based on the dollar amount alone, which is the over $5 million plus the $50,000. However, the email that I was talking about we got on Thursday is they have extended our deadline from October 31st to January. Several of the big cities and counties started asking for more time based on the dollar amounts that they're required to document, and so that was awarded to all of us within that. So our first report is not due until January now, which does help because we haven't even got started yet.
January what?
January 1 of 2022.
So December 31st.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm sorry. I'll double check, but I think it's January 30th. I apologize. January 30th of 2022.
End of January.
End of January, yes, sir. So we get to get through Christmas and the holidays, and then we got to start. So one of the things, let me pass out to you guys, is you'll see this in the portal. These are expenditure categories. They're not, every one of them are on there. Do you need one, Katie?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So every one of these are called expenditure categories. There's 66 of them. I'm not going to cover all 66 because you have copies of that right there. We were required in the interim report to go in and show where we were putting our funding within the expenditure categories. And one of the conversations we had in Commissioner's Court the other day was, yes, if you look on there, I showed more money than we have. That's true. I did show more money than we have, but you're also supposed to show the whole $11.9 million. I didn't do that because we don't have $11,900,000 in the bank. So I didn't feel comfortable putting that in the total report at the very beginning. We just go, when we do our updates on our reporting, we can just go in and change and show any additional funding added in those columns, or change the funding from one column to another if that's what you decide to do going forward within Commissioner's Court as a whole. And so you'll notice that on the expenditure survey, there's 66 of those categories right there, expenditure categories. So what we have to do is make sure each project aligns with those expenditure categories. Now, you're going to see some dollar amounts and go, well, why is it there? Based on what y'all's approval was in court, me and Margaret had to go back over to the compliance and reporting manual along with the reporting guidelines and then match up within their instructions as to where the dollar amount should be shown based on what y'all approved in Commissioner's Court. So that's why those expenditures are there. So if I could show you today, which I cannot because the portal is locked down to a certain point because they do not want anybody submitting reports that are not required to be submitting reports. There's only certain reports being required right now, and that involves this, which is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We did not participate in an Emergency Rental Assistance Program. These reports have to be done monthly, and you'll see that when I get inside the portal. This is the only box I can drop down because the portal has been locked down because it's outside of our reporting requirements. They do not want people submitting reports until it's their time. But when we get inside, this is what it will look like. We have our expenditure category, then we have projects A, B, and C if we do that many, and then we go over into where the obligation and the expenditures went, if we sub-awarded them, or if we provided a grant. In this case, we'll use Mission Granbury. We're going to be giving them expenditures to do several different things, and we'll list out those several projects, and they would be a sub-award grant based on the dollar amount, and then we would track that based on their requirements as to what they're supposed to provide us on the documentation piece, and then me and Becky will take that and ensure that that documentation is recorded within the Treasury portal. And so as you'll see, the report that I'm showing you shows that we show the cumulative obligation, and then you have your actual expenditures. Anything that has an actual expenditure is what Becky has already shown, or we've already started spending in that category as of when I did this report on August the 31st. As I said before, we've changed the date to January 30th of 2022. It will start then and be done every quarter going forward unless they change the deadlines. If they don't change the deadlines, then it's due 30 days after the required reporting date. One of the biggest things is making sure we're identifying whether or not what the project is serving. And to try to meet some of the obligations within inside this portal and instructions is to allow everybody else to do some of the work for us. As you know, Mission Granbury, they serve a very wide variety of our population. And so we'll let them be the ones tracking what underprivileged part of the community they're serving. If we are going to continue to do the mobile library, that will serve a big economic impact on a underprivileged part of the community that has a hard time getting to the library by putting that mobile library out into the community to serve those who cannot get to the library. And so that's what they're really focusing on, is what they want to make sure that we're doing within our funds. And then they talk about, this is some of the examples, you know, public health, public safety, which we are doing, household assistance, small business we did not do, travel and tourism, rehiring public sector staff, education assistance, or premium pay or revenue replacement. Then you get into these what they call the non-infrastructure projects, or infrastructure projects, and how they must be reported. This is part of the compliance that I was talking about. If you do these projects, these are some of the things that you're required to do if your project starts heading towards the $10 million mark. And then this just talks about webinars and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of stop right here, and I'm going to go to the portal so I can kind of backtrack and let y'all see the portal.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna get into the county funds that are available, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so at this time, at 9:15, I'd like to go from the workshop into executive session. So any of the commissioners or sheriff, Glenn, anybody else have anything else to add, or we adjourn until Jake gets some further information? And if you do get some further information, we'll call another workshop,
Yes, sir.
keep us apprised.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So at this time at 9:58, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for coming.